On today's episode of Jacked Up Politics, we're talking all things local election and European election related results, and we'll also be talking about Eamon Ryan's resignation as leader of the Green Party. All this and more coming up on today's episode of Jacked Up Politics. We're going to start off with a bit of breaking news today. Eamon Ryan, leader of the Green Party and Minister for the Environment, Climate and Communications, has Minister for Transport, has decided he is going to be stepping down as leader of the Green Party and as a TD, and will not contest the next general election, whenever that will be. Mr. Ryan was a TD from May 2002 until 2011, when the Greens were voted out of office, and then again in 2016. He has led the Green Party since 2011, so he's been in charge of the Green Party for the last 13 years, and he led the Green Party to a substantial victory in 2019 in terms of the local and European elections, when they gained 2 MEPs and a number of councillors, and he also gained a number of seats in the European Parliament for the Green Party, being 2, being Grace O'Sullivan and Ciarán Cuffe. But unfortunately, as a result of both the European elections and the local elections, the Greens lost a substantial amount of support. They lost quite a few seats in both the local and European elections, with both their MEPs losing their seats. And we've also seen that the Green Party in general has lost quite a number of seats. They went into this election with 49 seats. They lost the majority of those seats, losing 26 seats, which is over 50% of the seats, and I think it's actually closer to 60, and only held 23 of those seats. In comparison, Sinn Féin, Labour, who had a similar number of seats going into this local election, who was 57, only lost 1 seat. And I think that just goes to show you that the Greens are repeating history again. They're repeating the history of 2011, when they got absolutely decimated in the general election. And I think that just goes to show how people feel about the Green Party at the moment, that they feel the Greens have left the working class behind yet again. And I think that is reflective of how a lot of public sentiment, that they feel the Greens have let the public down yet again. And they've repeated the same mistake they made 13 years ago. And also in other news is, we were informed over the weekend that Deputy Holly Cairns is expecting her first child with her partner Barry, and we wish Holly and her partner the best of luck and our sincere congratulations. Holly's a fantastic TD for Cork South West, and she is an absolute stalwart of a politician, so we wish Holly the very best of luck with her pregnancy, and we wish her partner and her the very best of luck with parenthood, and we believe here on Jacked Up Politics that they'll both make fantastic parents, and we wish them both the very best of luck and our sincere congratulations. So, down to business. Now that the news is over, the local election has kind of shown that the local elections have shown that there is a continued shift away from Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and we're just going to talk briefly about the standings of the parties before they went into this election. In 2019, Fianna Fáil held 279 seats and Fine Gael held 255. When they went in on election day, Fianna Fáil held 276 and Fine Gael held 254. The change from 2019 was that Fianna Fáil were down 3 and Fine Gael was down 1. Sinn Féin stayed the same at 81. Labour had kind of stayed the same at... Labour had actually lost 2 seats going into the local election, with dropping from 57 down to 55. The Greens lost 4 going into this this local election, my apologies, with them going from 49 down to 45. And then, so if you think about it, they've actually lost, if you add 4 onto the number of seats that they've lost since 2019, that number is quite catastrophic. They've So they went into this election with 49 seats, and that 4 on that they lost, they've lost 30 seats, folks. They've lost 30 seats in the space of 5 years. And I think that's very telling of how the people in Ireland feel about the government parties at the moment. That there's a growing sense of dissatisfaction with Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens. And I think this is only going to be exacerbated in the upcoming general election, with the fact that we have now had 3 TDs elected to Europe. This means that 3 by-elections have to be held. The by-elections are very, very expensive to hold, and with an upcoming general election in having to be held by March next year, the consensus is now that we believe that the government will not hold the general election in March, but will actually hold the budget early this year and then go for a snap election later on this year. In other news, the Social Democrats went in with 19 seats in 2019. They had gained 3. They were up to 22 going into this local election, so they were up 3 seats going in. So Stocktims are already on a good start, or on a good footing going into the general election, or the local election, my apologies. Independent Ireland had 13, so they were up 13 already, so that was a very good sign for them. PBP and Labour were the same. They both lost 1 seat before the election. A2 kept the same with 3. Independents for Change lost 1 going in. The Right to Change lost Right to Change kept their 2, and Independents for Change had actually lost 1 because they began with 3. They held on to 2, and they were down to 1 going into the election. In terms of independents, then you had 185 independents going into this election. There was actually 181, so the independent count going into this election was down by 4. So we're going to talk now about actually what happened in terms of the local election. So Fianna Fáil wielded 366 candidates in the 2024 local election. Of those 366 candidates, they won 248 seats, meaning they were down 31 seats on their they were down 31 seats on 2019. They're actually down 4% on they're actually down 4% in terms of the number of first preference votes they received. As for Fine Gael, Fine Gael went in with 339 seats, or with 339 candidates. They received 245 seats, meaning they lost 10, having gone in with 255 before the start of the election. They received 23% of all first preference votes, down 2.26%, and Sinn Féin went in with 335 seats and won 102, up 21 from the 80 they previously held. Up from the 80 they previously held. The number of first preference votes Sinn Féin received was The number of first preference votes that Sinn Féin received was 11.8% of the electorate, of the total electorate, and they were actually up 2.32%, which is very good for Sinn Féin. There was some talk that Sinn Féin actually underperformed in this election, and that was due to the high number of candidates that they wielded during this election, only coming in third behind Fine Gael. And the fact that they actually gained is good, but I think the gains were a lot more conservative than people actually were hoping for in this general or local election. Labour went in with 109 candidates, and they came out with 56 seats, and they lost 1 seat. They received 5.3%, and they were down 0.4% in terms of first preference votes. The Social Democrats went in with 77. They received 35 seats. They were up 13 seats on their last local election campaign, and they received 3.4% of first preference votes, meaning they were actually up 1.1%, which is very good. The Green Party came in yielding 129 candidates, and they only received 23. And that meant they're actually down 26. They lost 26 candidates and received only 3.6% of the first preference votes in the local elections, meaning they were down 2.1%. Independent Ireland went in with 61 candidates, receiving 23 seats, and they were up 23 and received 2.8% of the first preference votes nationally. What this means for Independent Ireland is because they were new, there was nothing to base it off of, so it'll actually be telling in the next local elections whether or not that'll be up or down. PPP went in with 45 candidates, they gained 10 seats, and they were up 3, and there was no data there recorded for them for whether they were up or down. Aontú went in with 66 candidates, they got 8 seats, meaning they were up 5 from their previous 3, and received 0.7% of the total local election vote, receiving 2.1% of all first preference votes. Verona Murphy's Wexford Independent Alliance yielded 12 candidates and received 5 seats, and they were actually up 5, meaning they got 5 seats, and received 0.6, and because they were a new party, there was nothing to base this off of. The 100% redress scheme in Donegal achieved a 66% success rate, with yielding 6 councillors and receiving 4 seats, meaning they were up 4 seats, receiving 0.4% of all first preference votes in County Donegal. Solidarity yielded 8 candidates and were only received 3, meaning they were down 1, and there was no data to base whether they were up or down off of. Independents for Change actually went in with 2, only received 1 seat, meaning they were down 2, and they were down 0.3% of the electorate. The Irish Freedom Party went in with 28 candidates and only received 1. The National Party went in with 15 candidates, only receiving 1 seat as well. The Right to Change went in with 2 candidates and only received 1. And the Workers and Unemployed Party went in with 2 candidates and only received 1 seat. And there was no change in the numbers that they held. Same with the Kerry Independents, in the Independent Left, and Republican Sinn Féin. The Irish People went in with 57 candidates and received 0 seats. Ireland First went in with 8 candidates receiving 0 seats. The Workers' Party went in with 3 seats went in with 3 candidates and were actually lost their seat. Riorta went in with 4 candidates and lost. Riorta went in and received no seats. Glór, who are a one-person political party, went in with 1 candidate and received 0. The Party for Animal Welfare went in with 5 candidates, received 0. Farmers Alliance went in with 2, received 0. And the Independents went in with 488 candidates and received 178, meaning they were actually down 7. Looking across for Social Democrats, the Social Democrats actually picked up 2 councillors in Cork and got their first ever seat in Cork City, which was a very good result for the Social Democrats. Labour did very, very well in Cork as well, picking up 3 seats in Cork County and 1 in Cork City, which is a very good result for them. And I think it's very indicative that people still want a left-wing government in Ireland, and I think and there's just a quote here that I'm going to read out to you. Despite performing better than the last election, Sinn Féin's results were seen as a disappointment, with the election being reported as a victory for Ireland's governing coalition. Fine Gael credited the results to the resignation of Leo Varadkar, which injected fresh energy into the coalition. The Guardians, who said the local elections were a calamity for Sinn Féin, also report that some figures within the coalition called on Simon Harris to call a snap election to seize the momentum. Harris, Micheál Martin and Eamon Ryan all rejected calls for an early election. So what we're going to do now, folks, is we're going to have a look at the European elections, and we're going to go there. We're going to go from there. So just give us a second there now. And so the results of the European elections were: in Dublin, Regina Doherty for Fine Gael was elected. Barry Andrews for Fianna Fáil was elected. Lynn Boylan for Sinn Féin was elected, and Labour's Aidan O'Riordan was elected. In Dublin, you actually saw 2 incumbent MEPs losing their seats, these being Ciarán Cuffe and Claire Daly. Many people predicted that Claire Daly would lose her seat along with Ciarán Cuffe based on both performance of the Green Party and due to Claire Daly's close and kind of overtly friendliness towards Russia, and I think that kind of annoyed a lot of people, and I think that kind of resulted in, while she did receive quite a lot of votes, quite a lot of people were kind of very disenfranchised with Miss Daly as a result of the stance she had in the European Parliament. And I think this goes a long way as well. We also saw Luke Flanagan, the independent TD, or not TD, but MEP, being re-elected back into Europe, which was a fantastic win for Midlands North West, as Luke Flanagan has been a fantastic advocate for the Midlands North West over his 10 years as an MEP, and it was great to see him re-elected. Barry Cowan was actually elected for Fianna Fáil in Midlands North West. For anyone who doesn't know, Barry Cowan is the brother of the former Fianna Fáil party leader and Taoiseach Brian Cowan. And Barry Cowan was actually the Minister for Agriculture before he was unceremoniously sacked by Micheál Martin after a drink driving incident, which saw him losing his ministerial position as a result of the drink driving allegations. Maria Walsh and Nina Carberry for Fine Gael were both elected. Nina Carberry was actually a relative unknown in politics before this. She was actually a jockey, and a very successful jockey at that, before she went into the European elections. And she got the 4th seat in the Midlands North West, being followed by Ciarán Mullooly for Independent Ireland. And Ciarán Mullooly is a former RT presenter and newscaster. And he resigned from RT about 12 months ago and is now the first Independent Ireland MEP in Europe. In Ireland South, we saw Sean Kelly being re-elected for Fine Gael. We saw Billy Kelleher for Fianna Fáil being re-elected. Michael McNamara, who is an independent, was elected as well, which was very good to see. And we also saw Cynthia Ní Bhonnar for Fianna Fáil being re-elected, and Kathleen Function for Sinn Féin being elected. We also saw that Mick Wallace, the Ireland South MEP for Europe, lost his seat, and that was no surprise either that Mick Wallace was going to lose his seat. That had been called by a lot of people, myself included, before the European election, that we felt that he was not going to do as well as he thought going into this election. It was very sad to see Grace O'Sullivan losing her seat in Ireland South. Grace O'Sullivan is somewhat of a legend in the Green community. She was part of many Greenpeace protests against drilling for oil, and advocating for a more sustainable future. And if we can, we'll try and bring Grace onto the podcast in the near future. So, in terms of electoral success, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael haven't made any real substantial gains in the local European election. They've held on to seats they already had, and they had in the Midlands North West, you had Colin Markey, who was a Fine Gael MEP, stepping down, and that's why Nina Carberry was elected, was to fill that Fine Gael seat. So that's can't be really seen as a gain for Fine Gael. That's just maintaining the seats they already have. Frances Fitzgerald was replaced by Regina Doherty in Dublin, and Deirdre Clune was actually Fine Gael actually lost Deirdre Clune's seat in the South because they had Fine Gael going into this European election and actually had 2 seats in the Midlands, or across the country. Fine Gael had actually had 5 MEPs across the country. And, I think Fine Gael actually shot themselves in the foot this election, if I'm being perfectly honest, folks, because they've actually, in terms of their percentage gain, it's actually down. If you actually look at the numbers and you actually kind of, if you actually think about it from a numerical point of view, they're actually down seats in both the European and local elections. So that's not good for any party leader going into the an upcoming general election. Fianna Fáil are in the same boat. They've lost. You had 3 Fine Gael TDs standing down, or MEPs, my apologies, standing down in this this European election, and Fianna Fáil technically had some success in this election, if you think about it, because they picked up Barry Andrews in they picked up Barry Andrews in Europe, like they kept his seat, that's good. Barry Cowan picked up a seat in Midlands Northwest, so that was good. And Billy Kelleher and Cynthia Ní Bhurcúib, they picked up, if anything, Fianna Fáil picked up one seat, I would imagine, in the Ireland South constituency. Because if we have a look at the history of Ireland South, right, before the last election was in 2019, right, and you saw Mick Wallace, Billy Kelleher, Sean Kelly, and Grace O'Sullivan being elected, and then Deirdre Clune getting that additional seat in 2020 when, after the British had pulled out of the European Union, Ireland got additional seats and Deirdre Clune filled that seat. So if you think about Ireland South, right, Sean Kelly has been an MEP since 2009. So Fine Gael haven't really won any additional seats. They've basically just kept that single seat that they've had. And Cynthia Ní Bhurcúib, right, kind of rode off the back of Billy Kelleher, right, to get in and fill that additional seat. Because a lot of people were disenfranchised with Mick Wallace and did not want to see him getting back in. So, and you see, it was a very close-knit race as well, folks, is that, like, lots of people weren't happy with Mick Wallace because a lot of people felt he wasn't doing enough for Ireland South during his 10 years in MEP, and that's fair enough. And, if we look at the numbers here, right, from 2019, you had two Fine Gael TD or MEPs. One of them has now lost their seat. The Green MEP has lost her seat, and the Independent for Change MEP has lost his seat. You'd think if this was a success for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, Sinn Féin wouldn't have picked up that seat. Michael McNamara wouldn't have picked up that seat. That it really should have been to those two parties and the Greens maintaining their seat, but they haven't. So I think that says what it needs to say about the Irish ruling parties at the moment, that they're not doing as well as they think. Let's look at Midlands Northwest, okay? We're going to look at 2019, okay? So, Midlands Northwest, okay? They have, so the 2019 election, they have Chris McManus for Sinn Féin, okay? He's your MEP from up until 2024. And you have Luke McFlanagan, you have Maria Walsh, right? That Fine Gael TD. And you then have Walsh and Colin Markey, right? So, from the 2019 election, right, you have Chris McManus, you have Luke McFlanagan, Maria Walsh, and Colin Markey, okay? And before that, before 2020, that was a four-seater. After 2020, right, that seat was then filled by Ciarán Mullooly this year, okay? So let's look at that, right? Fine Gael haven't made any gains in those two seats, If they were doing as well as they thought with that energy and momentum that they supposedly had, they would have took out Luke McFlanagan and they would have taken in Ciarán Mullooly, Same with Fianna Fáil. If Fianna Fáil truly believed that they had enough power to get in and take those seats, Luke McFlanagan wouldn't still be standing. And neither would Ciarán Mullooly. They would have been, those would have been Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael seats, but they're not. It's an independent Ireland, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and Luke McFlanagan, So I think you now have, they haven't actually gained any seats, and I think that needs to be drilled home as well, that they haven't picked up any seats. And if we look at Dublin, we'll look at the 2014, or the 2019 election, right? Going into that, okay, we had Frances Fitzgerald for Fine Gael, Claire Daly for Fianna Fáil, or Independence for Change, and Ciarán Cuffe for the Green Party. Okay, let's look at this. That was 3 seats. It now went to 4 this year. Okay, if Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael were confident they would have made gains, Eamon O'Riordan shouldn't have gained that seat. Lynn Boylan shouldn't have gained that or held that seat. Barry Andrews should have been able to pick up a running mate in Dublin, as should have Regina Doherty. If Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael were that confident, they would have, or if the Matt Staffy or the momentum that they were saying they had should have been able to get them and another 2 candidates in Dublin as well. It didn't, So I think the government need to be very, very, need to realise this. They do not have enough support, right? And I think European elections and general elections are a completely different kettle of fish. And I think we're going to see in the upcoming general election, we're actually going to probably see Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael get decimated as well as the Greens. I think Fine Gael and the Greens are going to take the brunt of it, and Fianna Fáil will get off relatively unscathed. Because if you think about it, we're jumping from 166 or 168 seats up to 174 seats in the next general election, so we're going up to 174. It's largest all in the history of the country, and so it's 166 seats, we're gaining 8 TDs across the country, and if you do that, there's 39 constituencies, so saying there's 8, that's roughly, if you think about it, and say we have 4 provinces, that works, the math roughly works out at about, so say we're picking up, so we're going to 174, we have 4 provinces, so you're looking at picking up 2 TDs, if you think about it, folks, you're looking at picking up roughly 2 TDs per province, so Munster, Connacht and Ulster, as well as Leinster, and it's anyone's game to see where those 2 new candidates are going to be are going to be chosen from. My personal opinion, we're going to see Soc Dems picking up candidates, we're going to see Labour picking up candidates, we're going to see Sinn Féin picking up candidates, we're more likely going to see Independent Ireland picking up candidates, we're going to more likely see A&2 maybe picking up a couple of more seats, I think the day of the hegemony of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael is on the way out. You needed 2 of them last time around to get into power to keep each other going, as well as the Green Party. And I think this kind of centre-right style of government in Ireland is coming to an end. There's no 2 ways about that, folks. We're looking at the whole thing being, like I say to many people, folks, we're looking at a massive shift, or a political shift, in the upcoming general election. So, folks, this has been today's episode of Jacked Up Politics, the local and European election update episode. I want to wish you all the very best for the rest of your week. Join us on Thursday when we will be releasing our episode, our interview with Hugh O'Connell, political editor for the Sunday Times, and we look forward to having Hugh on and interviewing him. So, folks, until then, this is Jack signing off until Thursday. I'll see you then. Have a good one and catch you on the flip side. Bye bye. Super proud of how we held it down on the way up. Can't wait for our day to ball. This is a layup. Nobody ever said this would be easy, but trust when I say that you got it. I know you've been looking for a breakthrough, trying our best to make do. Every day is something new, but change gon' come. Oh yes, it's true. Brighter days are straight ahead.